when prospective clients would say no, I kept thinking, okay, what am I doing? Like, what, do they not like me? It sounds silly to say, but all right. Today, Imed and I are going to be discussing a new book called Choose Your Perspective, a very tiny book with a ton to unpack in here. Imed, we're going to do things a little different today, right?
Exactly. That's why we're going to jump right into it with some self-reflection questions, because this book, every chapter, you have self-reflection questions so that you're going to understand if you're in a good place or where you want to be or want to go. So,
yes, exactly. And the whole frame of this book, as it says, 7 tips for high performance through intentional thinking. Basically, let's not let our emotions rule our lives. Let them dictate our responses to things. Let it dictate our perspective, but instead we choose it, because emotions can be unreliable and there's so much more to the story. Let's make it less about us and more about the collective and the other person. And so the 7 tips are broken down into 7 chapters, and we start with awareness, then acceptance and action, positivity, productivity, patience, creativity, and then empathy and gratitude. And like Imed said, there are personal reflection questions at the end of each chapter. Today, instead of just discussing those questions, we're going to frame those questions from a business perspective. So how do we practice positivity in business, productivity in business, right? So the first chapter is all about awareness. And our first question is, Imed, are you able to observe your thoughts as they randomly enter your mind? Or how do you do that in business?
So yeah, I wasn't able before. And the first thing that comes to mind is, like, do you know that you have random thoughts entering your mind? And the moment that I read this question, I was thinking, do I have random thoughts that comes into my mind? And from that moment, you're going to know that probably you are, but you're not doing nothing about it. Just it comes, it goes. It's like having, let's say, a random idea of a business, of a blog post, of a podcast, whatever it might be, and you forget about it, right? So this is not something that is 100% negative, right? It can be positive. This question can be negative or positive, depends on how you see it. So for myself, if it's negative, yeah, I get ahead of it and I want to understand why I have it, right? And when it's positive, it can be an idea. Probably when it's positive, it's an idea about something like I said, blog post, podcast, or whatever it might be. And I write it down. So yeah. How
No,
about you?
I totally feel you, bro. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I mean, I have ADHD, so yeah. I mean, my mind is constantly inundated with random thoughts. My life is one big random thought. I mean, I will be working on something, a thought appears, and then I'm thinking about that. And it's taken a lot of time for me to realize not every thought deserves my attention. And this is something that I learned from a incredible teacher, Joyce Meyer. She said, we can't control the thoughts that come into our head. We can only control the ones we entertain. And when I implemented that into my business, when I have new business ideas coming, either when I'm alone or if I'm in a team meeting or if my team members have one and they bring it up, or if I'm on a call with a client, a prospective client, it doesn't matter. There's always, like, as people, we're creative. We all have thoughts racing in our heads. And there's going to be times when those thoughts are brought up, but it's not the right time to discuss them. It's not the right time to discuss, starting a TikTok campaign when we're originally talking about starting a new podcast, right? That's something that we can stair step and do in the future, but this isn't the discussion for that. So what I like to do, I think I've mentioned this before, I keep a running list of my random thoughts. And that's where if one comes in, I jot it down so it's saved. It respects that idea, it respects that thought without me getting lost in that thought. So that's what I've done.
Yeah, that's very good. And there's something else also, you know, like you said, if you're on a project and you start having random thoughts, but now that you're able to observe those thoughts, you can understand where did they come from. Like if you think about it for real, like, and you're like, I have this TikTok idea, like you said, and the reason is why. What are you consuming? Like, if you're having thoughts, mind, your brain is powerful, so it's absorbing everything that you're hearing, everything that you're seeing, everything that you're reading, and so much and so forth. So depends on what you're consuming. So if you change the way you consume content in a way that it's beneficial for your actual project, you're going to have random thoughts that are beneficial for
Right.
your actual project.
Right. No, I see what you mean. The distinction between a meaningful random thought and a distraction. And I think this chapter really went into how do we determine that? That's where the awareness comes into play. How do we distinguish a meaningful, valuable thought that's just at the wrong time versus something we shouldn't be giving attention to? And as a entrepreneur, as a business owner, you are constantly going to have those decisions to make, where to handle or where to put your focus. And especially to our solopreneurs out there, when you're just starting out and you're taking on clients and you're not delegating the work, you have to be extremely mindful of your time. And we'll get into that a little bit later when we talk about productivity. Another component is just make sure you're aware of your thoughts and make sure that you spend time on what you should be spending time on. And then, so another question we can talk about briefly for awareness. What fearful thoughts have you had that turned out to be untrue or worries that did not come to pass in your business, Imed?
So, like I said, for those who don't know, I'm a brand designer and Shopify developer running like a Shopify studio. And this like something new, right? And if I didn't listen to my thoughts, I wouldn't launch it, because there's an idea, and if you don't follow what you're thinking, or you need to dictate yourself to one thing and don't switch, right? But if you don't switch and you keep thinking about it, are you really gonna like be terrific into your job that you're doing right now if you're thinking about switching? And that was my process into going from what I was doing before into starting my Shopify studio. So the thoughts that I had were like worries, if should I start this, or should I like keep doing what I'm doing now, because I didn't last long before changing what I want to do.
Was
right?
that the web design?
I was doing before, I was only doing branding, right?
Just branding. Okay.
Yeah. But after I thought about it, and I was like, why not like launch my Shopify studio? Because
Right.
I love doing web design and I love doing branding, right?
Got
and
it.
it's not a kind of a jack of all trade, as you said, because at the end of the day, it's for Shopify brands, Shopify business, and
that's the positioning.
That's the positioning for me. And I can do web design and I can do branding. So why not doing them both? Because at the end of the day, I serve the same person, and I can serve them very well. So my fear was kind of related to that, if I should stay on my lane or like do really what I want to do. And at the end of the day, for now, I'm 100% confident to my capabilities, and the fear was just a random fear that you just gotta press over it and do what you need to do.
Very, very well said. I have had many worries, many, I don't like to say fears, but yeah, they were fears with Old Soul. And a lot of them have to do with the client work, just because, I used to attribute my self-worth is a little too strong of a word, but I attributed too much of myself into the work. So then anything that was said that went against what I delivered was like it was going against me. And I used to put myself into my proposals and into the pitches. And, to a degree, there is still a lot of that, especially with Old Soul being where we're at. Like, yeah, I'm pretty much the face of the company. And we're working on, repositioning some of that. But when prospective clients would say no, I kept thinking, okay, what am I doing? Like, what do they not like me? And it sounds silly to say, but it's very true. It's like, when you're getting no after no, how much of it is your presentation material and how much of it is it you? You know what I mean? So that, yeah, I've had tons of them. And when it comes to just thoughts that turned out to be untrue, there's too many to count. I mean, little things like, will the client like it? Well, turns out that I spent a lot more time. Oh, here's a recent example, building a new show. And I spent about 4 hours trying to replicate something that the client whipped up in Canva. They really liked it. And I wasn't able, I know we discussed this, and I wasn't able to get it 100%. I kid you not, 4 hours in one sitting, but I already spent probably 4 hours prior to that just because I've always had this thing against Canva. Shame on me, I know. And I just couldn't get it. I got everything but this one little thing. And I tried one last option, didn't work. I'm like, you know what? We're just going to do Canva. It's not going to be to my expectations. I don't think the client's going to like it, but I'm just going to try it. I whipped it together, no more than 10 minutes, sent it to the client. They love it. And I'm sitting there like, Matt, you are too darn stubborn. If someone says they like it, you don't always have to, you don't have to try to convince them otherwise. Just go with it. So I was worried that they wouldn't like it because I didn't produce it in, After Effects and then into Premiere, and it's not a SVG in Illustrator and all the things. And turned out it was just completely untrue.
That's crazy. I told you.
I know you did. You told me, you're like, Matt, just do it in Canva. And you told me that before I spent the 4 hours, and I should have listened. So needless to say, I'm now a Canva Pro member. Check the affiliate link below. No, I'm playing. Yeah. So this is actually a great segue into the next chapter, acceptance and action. Where in your business can you let go and accept circumstances by seeing them a different way, Imed?
So this question, as of now, like I can relate to that. But before, like I said, I think that I read. No, I didn't read this book at the same time. I don't recall it. But anyway, like I was in a time of my life into my business, like 6 months, 1 year, and I have a few clients real quick. Not what I was aiming for, but and I wasn't happy with where I am as of now. So I decided to go ahead and launch the Shopify studio. And as of now, I'm happy. I enjoy the process. I don't have what I want yet, but I know that I'll get it, and I'm very happy with that. And so I'm good. I'm very good.
That's excellent. And mine is similar to what I said a little bit earlier. When I got to a point with my proposals and I was like, okay, I can't control the outcome of the conversation. I can only, show up, be myself, do my best to describe the value that I believe Old Soul brings. And it's ultimately in the hands of the client. And of course, we read all the books, we take the courses, we look at the guides on ways to be better at closing. At the end of the day, though, we aren't the ones writing the check to ourselves out of the prospective client's checking account, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, you know what, Matt? Keep showing up, keep trying your best, keep trying to find ways to refine your pitch, refine presentations. And if they say no, they say no. Just try to move on from it. Don't take it personally. Because there's never been a time where people said, like, yeah, we just don't like you, you know? And I think that's something that it is silly to say that aloud, but that is kind of what I was not kind of, that is what I was telling myself. So that's probably that's the first one that comes to mind where I just accepted, you know what, it is what it is. I can only do my best.
You know, people can relate to that. I'll say solopreneur, entrepreneur, whatever it might be. And like these questions can make you reflect on should you delegate or no. And like a lot of creatives when starting out, like this is the part that it is the most difficult to do. Like everyone want to do it everything by themselves, right? For myself, I know that I have to respect my budget, I have to respect my workflow and so on. But from the moment that I can delegate, let's say video editing, content creation, and all of that part of the business that brings client, I'm gonna delegate that like 1,000%. And this thing that I'm doing now, I don't have a choice, right? This is part of the process,
Right.
and I think that people can relate to that. So
Yeah.
that's pretty
So
much it.
so what you're saying is you're accepting that for where you're at right now with your
Yeah.
business, this is just a part of it. You got to make the content on your own because you're not, you don't have a team, and you're building this thing because it is a newer venture. And our listeners should take that into consideration. Don't I think there's a lot, especially on money Twitter, like
Yeah, but,
was
at the end of the day, because like I said, if I take this question into consideration for myself as of now, like I can delegate, yes, but is it going to be beneficial for me as of now? Because I don't have like a tons of articles. Like even if I hire a copywriter now, and is he going to know my voice, how he needs to write, and so on? Like there is not enough content to be delegated as of now.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's my mindset as of now.
Yeah. Accept the circumstances and just reframe it in your mind. I love that. And the third chapter of the book is all about positivity. And anyone listening can probably infer that you and I are just beams of sunshine. There's nothing but sunshine and rainbows. And we just skip off into the sunset together. And that's just, we're happy dudes. I really do wonder, like, people listening, they're like, man, are they enjoying life? It doesn't matter. See, random thought. And I'm not even going to edit that out. All right. So, positivity in your business, how do you handle criticism or disagreement?
From from business perspective,
Yeah.
as we mentioned, depends. Like if you're gonna say like you take things personally, like I don't like, let's say, the logo. If I'm attached emotionally to my work, it's gonna hurt, right? So the only way I can put it is comparing that to a love relationship, right? And either you like it or no, you can get hurt
Yeah.
because you're emotionally attached, right? If you don't care about the person and she's gonna say to you, "You're ugly. I don't like your haircut." You're like, who give a fuck? You don't care. But if it comes from a person that you like, it hits differently. And I think it's the same thing with business. If you're not attached emotionally to it, it won't hit. You wouldn't care. Like you care, but not that much. Like oh, okay. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. So I'm gonna I'm gonna take it into consideration, and I'm gonna do what is necessary come to an agreement. And yeah, I see it from this perspective. I detached emotionally from the work I do, and it was a huge step because I was, you know, on this perfectionism side of things. You never get things done. You're too attached to it, and from the moment that you understand that you need to get rid of that, your life like takes another road, another path that is headacheless.
Yes. Maybe not completely, but it certainly does help. And yeah, I can totally relate. I mean, especially starting out. Again, when I was selling my services, I'm selling me. So I was emotionally attached. And then I learned, probably from a Christo video, to unattach myself. And we can utilize resources like brand strategy to direct a creative project, and we can develop, ideal customer avatars so that the things that we make are supposed to be liked by that ideal audience member. You know what I mean? So that
Mm,
that brings objectivity into it. But at the end of the day, everyone is going to have a personal opinion. And when it comes to your work, are you going to attribute, what you create to your identity or not? And it will save you a lot of headache, as you said, and a little heartache if you don't. For for me, I criticism has always been difficult. I am a perfectionist. If you do the Enneagram, I'm a 1. We're perfectionists. And it is extremely difficult for me in the past, and it is still a process, to take that, to hear, yeah, we don't really like it. Like, what do you mean you don't like it? Or, yeah, we want to change the fonts up. And it's like, why are you doing 3 different fonts that are all different styles? Like, if you look at the rules, you're not supposed to do that, right? That's bad
mm.
typography. And it's something that I'm working on. So I can't really speak to I'm in it right now. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
haven't overcome criticism. It's still something that I I work on, and I do actively try to be like, okay, you know what? I want to respond in a certain way. So I'm now anticipating that response. I'm just building that habit at this point. But yeah, it's hard. With disagreement, I handle it pretty well, I think. I am the type though that's like, okay, we can figuratively like put on the gloves and go boxing. But yeah, so I like to debate. I like to challenge. That's another deadly sin of mine. And it is taking, yes, there's some personal growth that I am currently going through where it's like you don't have to challenge everything. Like when I
Mm,
challenged that new show, I didn't have to challenge the design. If they liked it, I should have looked at the timeline and thought about the bigger picture and not get caught up in the weeds. And that's
right.
unfortunately what I didn't do. But good thing I did it eventually. And all right. So productivity. You are Mr. Productivity. Um,
No,
that's
not 100%.
no,
Under
definitely.
50.
It's 150%. Um, in your business, what are you obsessed with?
I'm obsessed with. I mean, how can I can phrase it? Like getting better. I'm obsessed with getting better because I know that every project that you do, you're gonna get better. You can get worse. That's not possible. Like
Eh,
instead, you're
yeah.
practicing in the wrong way.
Yeah. You
But
shouldn't. It would take more effort to be worse as you go along than it would to be
yeah,
better. Yeah.
and I think that it comes from the basics. So productivity again is, I think, subjective or objective. Are you saying that?
Yeah.
You,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
Anyway,
I confuse myself. It's
I'm
subjective.
confused, but
Yeah.
anyway, they understand. You
Yeah.
understand. So it is objective. So it depends on the person. If someone is, let's say, working 10 hours a day, right, and he comes from a corporate like schedule, and now he's an entrepreneur. But you need discipline when you come from this world, and the difference is what are you gonna do with yourself, and what is being productive for you. Because if you're like you're in the way before that you work like 8 hours, and on 8 hours you only work 3 hours, you're being productive if you work 3 hours, right? So you don't have to work 8 hours, but in your mind you need to work 8 hours, but you don't get things done pretty much after 3 4 whatever it might be. So at the end of the day, if you're obsessed with something, times can fly by and you don't see it. But if you put limits to yourself that you need to finish this project or this task on a timeline, you're going to perform differently. And it can be something that plays against you being obsessed with something because you love it and you don't, like I said, seeing the time fly by. And that's why I prefer to put it as being obsessed with getting better, because if I say obsessed with doing websites, I can do website for 10 hours, but what is the
Yeah.
end goal, right?
Yeah. And we should always operate with the end in mind, where we want to be. And I think productivity, to your point, it is subjective. It means something different to every person. And it's kind of like efficient versus effective. And one isn't necessarily better than the other. And there's debates around that. But for me, I'm obsessed with growth as well. And I think that's why I had such an issue with that project, because I felt like, okay, you know, our podcast was one of the most recent ones I did, and I did animations for it that I thought were pretty dope. So I felt like if I went to Canva for this new show, it was a step backwards where I want to keep
Mm-hmm.
taking steps forward, you know what I mean? And that's just not the case, because there are more ways to quantify growth than or qualify growth than just production quality. It could be better conversations. It could be, I don't know, better music. The list goes on and on. So that's something that I'm obsessed with. And our next question is, what distracts you the most? For me,
Thoughts.
yeah, thoughts are definitely a big one.
Same things for me, and I think depends on what. But if I found like process for myself, let's say I know that it is like I take it from this perspective. Starting doing meaningful work is like go to the gym or start playing a sport. You can just go and start playing any or start benching 2 plates. You need to warm up, and it's pretty much the same thing on this task, whatever you might be doing, websites, logo, brand, whatever your work is. You need to warm up, and it might take 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We don't know. But for me, it takes around 20 minutes. So I start slow, and my brain, he knows what is happening, right? So I don't want to like go in him. Okay, I'm going to start now. Let's go. I'm not in that mindset. I know how I work, and it took me a lot of time understanding that, because every productivity things that you're gonna do, just do the work and get rid of the distraction. But getting rid of distractions is difficult. Like you just let's say you love someone again, and I told you, forget about him. That's the way to do it, or go do something else to not think about it. You're gonna think more about it.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
how we
also,
work.
it's not kind to the other person if you're just completely MIA for 10 hours a day. Some people
Yeah.
operate like that in their relationships. I don't. And I think as business owners, there is a large portion of your business that is availability. So
Hmm.
if you're a small business, small agency, solopreneur, whatever you want to call it, one of the main incentives for clients to work with you versus larger firms is the fact that you don't have 4 million clients, but you can dedicate time and care to them. So, I mean, I see it that way, and that's why I never turn off all of my stuff, because I will get messages and I'll get emails, and I try to be aware with the ones that I respond to and the ones I don't. But I got kind of like an emergency message last night. Client re-recorded something because they just weren't feeling really great about the outcome in the episode. There was some equipment issues, so they sent it over. They're like, "Hey, can you get this re-edited?" Well, if my stuff was on Do Not Disturb and all that, yeah, I can justify, well, it's not during business hours or whatever. But I told them I will be available for you because I'm walking through this with you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
This is like something you can put on your website because people are looking for that. But depends. I don't think that you're gonna do that like anytime or
No, it's
depends.
not. No,
Okay?
you have to put limits to it, because then it's just all time. And I've been there. I've been there where I'm working on things until midnight with a client. I've done that more than a handful of times. And I'm taking calls on days that I said I don't work. And that is no way to conduct business. You have to put parameters on it.
Yeah. I understand. Yeah, totally. And that's one thing that comes into productivity. So, like, how do you want to live your life? I think that the whole picture around that, if it's working 10 hours a day, being productive for you, and you're happy with that, then do it. But if you don't want this lifestyle and being productive for you is working 5, 6 hours a day, 4 times per week, then you need to do some sacrifice on it, right? But there is a system for it, and you're just gonna find yours.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And why don't we mention a few ways or a few resources that we've used in the past, just briefly, that our audience may want to check out. When it comes to project management, I know you're a Notion fan. I use
Hmm.
ClickUp. I'm thinking of maybe using other resources, but ClickUp's been great for me for both personal and business to just keep things in line.
You know, I was obsessed with seeing other people's like system, how they work. But what is the chance that you find someone who do exactly the same thing as you? Right? Is they going to the gym at this time? Are they, doing podcasts as you said?
Do they
What
have the
are they
same
doing
responsibilities?
exactly? So you won't find someone that is exactly like you. And if you have this expectation so that you can go to YouTube, Notion productivity system or template and start using it and start being productive, I don't think it works like that. But you can take it as inspiration and do it on your own way. Because if someone thinks that they're gonna take template of someone who is productive because he's using this template, and they're gonna be the same for them, it's completely wrong in my opinion. Because like I said, for me, yeah, I took inspiration, but I understood at a point that I go to the gym, I read books, I create content for myself. I'm not burned out, but my system is for myself. I don't even have a calendar as of now, like on a computer. I prefer to use paper, so it's my way of working as of now. But adaptation is another thing for productivity. You need to adapt to new technologies, new softwares, and that's why you can expect to be at your 100% with someone else template or something like that. You need to work on your own, but it takes time. That's the only way to it for
Yeah,
myself.
no, I totally agree. I mean, it's similar to Steal Like an Artist. When you're finding your voice
Mhm.
creatively, you look, you find people to replicate, but then you make your own. Same thing with productivity. Look what other people are doing. And I used to, before I started Old Soul, and I was just, solo everything, I really enjoyed having a big paper calendar on my desk. But then I also had a, uh, a notebook that was a calendar as well. And I took that as a planner, and I took that everywhere. Well, that's not really feasible when you have to communicate with a team on deadlines and everything. So I digitized everything, and it's something I'm going through right now, trying to figure out my systems and whatnot. I will say, don't get caught up in the weeds. If you're just starting out, you don't need to systematize everything immediately. Find the
Yeah,
things that are recurring and are very just copy and paste. Make a standard operating procedure if you want. Record a little video explaining to yourself on what your process is so you can replicate it. But you don't have to have like 14 million flows figured out, and you don't need to have this ginormous like web of, okay, first this happens and then this, because it's changing. You're still, it's like dancing. You're getting your footing and you're trying
yeah.
to figure out what's working and what isn't. And you have to, guide, and you have to
You know,
move and be fluid.
exactly. There's people like they don't know shit about Notion, ClickUp. Like they don't know their existence, and those things didn't exist 10 years ago. So are you telling me that 10 years ago people weren't productive? you know. So thing also is a lot of people are influencers nowadays, and sponsored by Notion, sponsored by that, sponsored by that. Yeah, if I use it, yeah, I'm gonna sponsor this thing. But are we forcing ourselves to use Notion, let's say, to be productive and all? Like there's a lot of thoughts around that, and some people who want to be productive think that it's all around uh, those kind of system management things. But I think that you can manage everything without a computer if you have a good system, like on your bedroom.
Yep. Get your whiteboard. Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
totally agree. Don't get caught up in the weeds. And
yeah.
this works right into our next chapter on patience.
I like the question. Do you compare your pace of living and achieving goals to others? If so, why? A lot of people are going to relate to that because I know that there's a lot of comparing in social media.
I mean, that's all social media really is. I
Yeah,
mean, that's not the goal per se, but I mean that when you think about influencers, if they're pushing a product, I think the underlining thought is look at how this product has impacted my life, and then what would your life look like with it? And that's a comparison.
yeah,
And it's just natural. I mean, you go through a mall, you look at magazines, you look at anything, and unless you have complete 100% control of your thoughts, I think it's just human nature to be like, oh, look at this person and what they're doing, and how do I weigh against that? You know what I mean?
hmm,
Especially in business. How do you
right.
handle that? I mean, it can be exhausting.
Yeah, especially at the beginning. Like this is the whole grill. You're starting, you're seeing other people work, and you get caught up on that. But from the moment you understand that, let's say, it's like I like to always take sports and comparing those two things. And from the moment that you understand it is exactly the same thing, if you're just starting playing basketball, why in the hell you're not comparing yourself to someone who's been playing 5 years, and you know that you're not on the same level, right? So you're never going to compare yourself to someone who's been playing 5 years from you, or 10 years, whatever it might be. It can be applied to boxing, no matter what. So why do you compare yourself when it comes to work? And when it comes to starting a new career in design or something, you start comparing yourself to someone who's been in the industry like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, who doing it like is only more talented, but it is, again, talent is not subjective in a way, but yeah, it can be subjective depending on like who's judging, right? Because in your eyes something someone can be that talented, much talented, but if they're gonna be judged by, like, let's say awards.com judges, they're not that talented, right? So it is subjective, depends on how you see it.
On the context and your
And
perspective.
that's how I understood that I shouldn't compare myself to others, because with my sports analogy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I feel you. And again, this is something that, yes, I used to compare a lot. Now I can confidently say it is way, way, way less because I'm less worried about what these micro influencers, these big influencers, these non influencers, like I don't have time to be worried about that. Like just looking at a timeline, like I do not have the time for that. And I know how destructive it can be. So that's why I don't go on Instagram for hours on end. I mean, literally, I'll probably check Instagram for less than 60 minutes a week. And that'll probably change with time, but that's just, I don't have time for that. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a difference between comparing yourself with someone and being inspired by someone. When we're comparing, that is just lust in a way. You really want what they have because you don't have that, and you think it's,
Hmm.
grass is greener on the other side, whatever. Well, what value does that bring to your life? Nothing. Nothing. It's self-destructive. It ruins your day. It causes you to act differently. If you're inspired though, that's different. Because if you're inspired by someone, you're you're comparing yourself in a way that's like, okay, well, this is what they're doing. How can I maybe replicate that? So I think we should take inspiration from people, but we shouldn't compare ourselves to them. And that's in
Totally
life
agree.
and in business. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Even it is like it is toxic in every aspect of business and life, like comparing your relationship with others, person relationship, comparing your like your salary with someone else's salary that is has the same position as you, you know, and yeah, it never stops. You're
It won't stop. I mean, and it is
exactly.
solely about choosing your perspective because even if you get a higher paying client or you get a better job, like you're going to be comparing yourself to people above you. There's always going to be someone that's more successful by however you define it. So unless
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
intentional with how we look at those people, you're just I think it's a life wasted if you're just constantly comparing because you're never good enough and you're never going to be satisfied. What do you think?
Hmm. Totally agree. And I love, I love persons who, like, yeah, I'm gonna phrase it like that, but is really for context that are not that good, but in their mind they're the best. Or someone, again, beautiful is subjective, and you can see that someone is not your type, right? But in their mind, they're the most
Hey, yeah,
sexy and yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's having
beautiful
rock
person.
star confidence.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah,
love those kind of persons because, why other persons don't think like them. And at the end of the day, it is a mindset. And I saw a movie around that, like, it is a woman who thinks, she's fat and she got hit in the head and she wakes up and she has a totally different mindset. Like she thinks that she's sexy, she's beautiful, and the whole movie is around that, and she is successful as hell just because of that. Like really just because of that. And all of your decisions are made around that. If you think that you're not beautiful enough to go get the job, or you're not skilled enough to apply for this job, right? You're not going to do it, and you're never going to know if you're going to get picked up. But if you have a different mindset, I'm the best even if you're not, and you apply to this job, you're going to have it, right? Not 100%, but you have better chance in having it
yeah.
than not applying.
It's going to impact the way you interview. If you're going into something with the confidence, feeling like, you know what, I am worth their time. I have something of value to bring. You are going to speak
Hmm.
differently.
Yeah.
Your body language is going to be different than, I don't even know how I got this. And I'm not good enough and they're going to hate it. And it's like, that's going to change the energy you give off. And this isn't like all ethereal or anything. It's literally like there'll be more ums and uhs and stuff like that. And there'll be less, this is what it is. This is who I am. This is what I provide. This is what I think we can do. And that's important in business, especially with, in pitching. I'll compare it again to dancing. You got to lead. You have to lead the client and not let them lead you, because then you're an order taker and you're not a specialist. So that goes back to win without pitching. When we talk about creativity, and this is the sixth sixth chapter, is there someone in your life who will argue with you to make you see other sides of an idea or issue?
I think I'm gonna sound crazy a little bit, but it is myself,
No, it's not
Uh,
crazy.
yeah, and
I got you.
well, what I like doing is like separate days. Let's say I'm gonna do a logo, for example, and I have glasses, right? Yeah, and sometimes I have my contact lenses. So what I like to do is sometimes can like not split personality, but just to have a role. Let's say when I have my glasses is when I work on the computer. Is when I have my lenses. I don't work. Like I don't work when I have my lenses. I don't like to do that. So when I put my contact lenses on,
It's game time. Oh no,
it's a
contact
different
lenses
person.
is you're
Yeah, I'm
chilling.
outside.
But when the
Yeah, I'm
glasses are
chilling.
on, that's game time.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'm doing my YouTube videos. I'm doing so when I put my contact lenses and I come back to the computer is a whole different person with a whole different perspective that is going to criticize the work that I did, but in like is like creative direction for myself. Um, like I'm criticizing in another perspective the work that I did before because like I said, I don't have emotional attachment to it. It's the work that I do and only the work that I do.
But
And so
how many rounds would you do? Because I think it could be argued that wouldn't it just be a loop? You're just going back and forth. I'm playing devil's advocate with the glasses on, without the glasses. So how do you
I,
distinguish, okay, this is the best course of action? Or is that just something you know?
it comes down from where I beat it down my perfectionism, and it was with this method. So with this hack, let's say, and it works for me. So I don't care like how I do it or how you might do it, but there is always a way to do it, and you're just gonna find the way because at the end of the day this question it can be negative or positive because if you're listening to every argument that people are saying about an idea you have or your work and you only listen to these people like what is the professionalism on all of that and like what is your like I know what I'm doing now there's a difference between I know what I'm doing I don't want to hear nothing and I know what I'm doing but I'm willing to listen to what you have to say because I'm going to give you an example. I'm doing a website for a beauty brand, let's say, okay, and you're going to show this website to your buddy, and he see like a beauty website one time per 100, so I'm gonna show it to him just to have like an idea, but I'm not gonna listen to. He's gonna tell me, you need to do that. You need to do that. I don't, no, thank you. I know to. I only need your overall opinion. I don't want to listen to do this and do this. Right? It's so for general feedback, and there's other feedback that do this and do this, and I do it for myself. I don't need like an external feedback for
Yeah,
that, right?
I see what you mean. And it's similar to with our thoughts. We can't control what people say, but we control who we listen to. So it's
Yeah.
being intentional with that. You shouldn't be going out listening to the feedback of everybody. And there's been times where exactly the point you made, unqualified people are giving their perspectives and you can listen to it, but you don't follow that advice. And there's been times where I've had to tell clients like, look, I understand what you're saying. However, it has been shown through X, Y, and Z, through my experience, whatever you want to say, that what's best for this situation is different. And sometimes you have to have those tough conversations. And there's a time and place for everything. I do really, really, really enjoy surrounding myself with people that feel confident and empowered enough to challenge me. It's because that's where the best ideas come from. That stuff, you do that with me, Imed. When I was talking with you about the project, you were like, Matt, go on Canva and do it. And you explain why and whatnot. And it wasn't just, oh yeah, I think you're right, bro. Like just go on Adobe and do whatever. You're like, no, you need to do that. And my very, very good friend Nathan, he'll be like, Matt, you're overcomplicating this. He's like, why don't you try looking at it this way? You're right. Thank you. My man, Sonny, same thing. I surround myself with people that aren't afraid to challenge because they're not doing it out of, let's get mad. You know what I mean? Because there are people like that. There are people like they're just gonna, the Twitter trolls, they're gonna say what they're gonna say and that's it. But let's be aware of who we're asking for feedback from and be aware of the people we invite in. And there are spaces where that can be healthy. There's communities like Utopia that we're both in, where that's a space of like-minded people that there are those a little bit farther along in the journey and those way more along in the journey and those that aren't, where that is a safe space to have conversation because it's with like-minded people. It's not a Facebook group for like grandmas that like to knit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that is so important. That is just, if I could say one thing, it's if you have issues with criticism, you need to surround yourself with people that aren't afraid to give you constructive feedback and criticism. That's why I do it. Because I knew, Matt, you hate it. So I'm like, well, it means I got to do it then.
Yeah. And, I like to see it from the lens of pretty much any kind of situation. Like there's people who don't have friends. Okay. So who are they going to ask? Or they have friends like me. I have friends, but they're not into my field of expertise. So, I can't ask advices around that. But in some kind of situation, let's say I have a problem with a client or I don't know how to talk to a client. So, I can practice with my friend. He can be a client, right? So, you don't need to. I need someone who is not in my field because in that particular situation is going to serve me, right? And those kind of feedbacks are relevant to me because talking to someone who is not into your field, your client are not supposed to be in your field. Like they don't know
That's
web
why they
design,
hired you.
they don't know branding, they don't know marketing, whatever it might be. So yeah, depends on how you're going to ask your questions and what type of feedbacks are you listening to. And from the moment that you become intentional about that, something change and you become more creative because let's say, let's phrase it like as a system. Because for myself, there's a lot of ways to get creative, right? You can be in the shower, go for a walk. Yeah. We have all of this discussion around still like an artist. We talked about it. And anybody can be creative. Like, again, from my same perspective on sports, there's creativity in sports. Like there's IQ.
Everyone
game.
is creative.
Exactly. You can be creative giving a combo of 3 punches, right?
There you go.
So
yeah.
It depends on how you see it. And everybody's creative. So
doesn't mean you have to listen to everybody. So be intentional, choose the people that you really listen to. And I do think there is a component though, and this is in contradiction to what I just said. We should operate under the idea or the perspective that we have something to learn from everybody. And this goes right into our final chapter, empathy and gratitude. If we believe any conversation we have with a person, there is a learning moment in that possibly, that makes us more, honestly, more thankful for just, I guess, conversations and life in general. And it puts us in a different place. And that's what's going to keep us grounded. That's what's going to keep us, okay, as we get more success and the money's running and this, that, and the next, we're not going to be total jerks when we're at the top. You know what I mean? We're not going to lose ourselves. We're not going to, and this is We're not going to walk on stage and slap someone on live TV, because we're going to really be thinking more about the other person and viewing them as valuable, and viewing people in a way that, I don't know. It's something I think is very lacking in society and in business. Uh, it I feel like it very much gets into me. And in business, we need to be providing value for others, and we need to respect others. So, how do you practice empathy and gratitude in business?
Yeah, it is a little funny, but I took like a small anecdote from before when we came to Canada, and my father didn't have like a cell phone, right, for a long time. He just got his cell phones like 3 years ago,
Oh,
I'd
really?
say. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Was he using like a pager?
Nothing.
Nothing,
You don't
nothing.
need
So
a cell
you
phone,
you
bro.
sent you sent like a pigeon, a carrier pigeon, or
He's
a
a teacher.
landline.
Yeah, so he's a teacher, and he came. We came from Algeria, so no cell phones. Like we don't need it. Like why do we need? Why should I need it? Right. So now he needed because my sisters and so on. Anyway, so he asked me how to use it, and if I don't have empathy and gratitude for just empathy for that, like I need to understand that he don't know how to use it, right? So I teach him how to use it, but when it came to mind that my father he studied for like 12 years, have a doctorate. I don't know how to say
Wow.
that in English. Is
Yeah.
doctorate something like that? Yeah,
Yeah.
anyway.
Doctorate.
So I have so many questions that I can ask him and learn, but never kind of, I don't know how to, I ask him, let's say, how to learn better, how he studied, because those kind of questions. Yeah, and I learned a lot just from that, because if you know how to ask the right questions, and if he didn't have empathy for me, it's like, you go learn for yourself,
Right.
bro.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're 25, man.
Yeah.
And
Figure it out.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't have time for you. So anyway, that's why like I was in a kind of place. mm, I don't have the envy. Like I don't want to like teach him from A to Z how to use the phone. It's complicated a little bit, But I wanted to. Anyway, long story short, he know how to use the iPhone as of now, so that's
There we
great.
go. You're
For
Mr. Tech Support.
yeah, for business, it depends on what type of clients are you dealing with, and I think that if you're dealing with your ideal type of client every time, you don't even need to force empathy, right? Because we're gonna lie to ourselves if we say that we cares about everyone. Like there's people who are like that. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm not. Like there's people I don't care. I don't love. I don't like. There's no filter here. If I know that I cannot have empathy for someone, I'm not gonna work with him. So from the very beginning, like there's some type of people I just can't stand out. So I don't want to work with you. I don't have I don't have to deal with you. So that's one way for me to know, like, how I can be with people, right? To have empathy for them, like understanding what they're going through with their business, how I can help them, and so on. So yeah, that's one point for me. And for gratitude, to be honest, again, if you're comparing yourself with others, you won't have gratitude for yourself in your life, in your business. You will never be happy with what you have and what you're gonna have in the future. And I think that with that kind of mindset, you can like grow. You can grow, right? So even if I don't have the type of client that I want to have as of now, I'm still grateful for having clients, right? You can like spit on that. You can complain about that, and then people in this world of influencers, they forget the moment that they had zero followers and they had zero money on their bank, and now that they have money, they have followers. If like from today, tomorrow, there's no Instagram, no Snapchat, and no whatever, no Twitter, no social medias at all. Who gonna know who the fuck are you, right? Like nobody knows who are you, and now, like, are you gonna be grateful? Are you gonna be grateful to having what you have now? Like, are you the followers you had, all the money you had? Like, at the end of the day, tomorrow, Fisk can come and confiscate all your money, right? We don't know what can happen, right?
It's intentional
So,
living. Yeah. And
exactly.
it's operating under the assumption that your time is not infinite, and that's not a scare tactic, that's just a reality. So when you recognize, like, yeah, we're not immortal. So how do we want to live this one life we got, right? Uh, I really liked what you said, the story about your dad. Thank you for sharing. My father, I have so much to learn from him, and I used to, not gonna lie, I used to get a little annoyed with the frequency in which I would speak with family, because it would be daily, multiple times a day. And I'm like, I have nothing to update you on. Like, nothing is going on. Same thing that was going on yesterday, going on today. You know what I mean? And then I remember seeing a tweet. Don't know who it was from, but they said you should cherish all of those moments, because you don't know. You don't know when uh, the last one will be. And now I'm going to shift. We're not going to get this to be morbid, but that changed my perspective to be like, you know what? Why am I getting upset? Like, thank you, God, I have a father to talk to. Thank you, I have a mother to talk to. Thank you, I have family to talk to. Thank you, I have friends. And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, like, I need to get stuff done. It's like, no, man, your priorities are out of whack, because that shouldn't be the attitude or the energy you're giving off. And when it comes to business, I practice empathy with my clients 100%. I try to understand and put myself in their shoes. Okay, if I was a couple decades older than I am now, and I didn't grow up with the technology, I didn't grow up with Instagram, I didn't grow up with these platforms, shifting to them would be scary. The idea of taking photos that have me in it would be scary as I'm getting older. And I'd be, people are self conscious, still going to be conscious about the way we look, right? So I try to remember that. And in business, for our copywriters out there, practice empathy in your copy. Speak to those pain points. In your pitching, speak to those pain points. Talk to the prospective client, or talk to your client that you understand what that would feel like, or you can see what that would feel like. When it comes to gratitude, I think Alex Hermazi said this. He said, you know what? Send gifts to your clients. That's something I really want to do. Honestly, I want to get to a point where I don't want to send a fruit basket or nothing. I really want to get like custom cigar wrappers and send a box of
Mhm.
cigars to my clients, but not there yet. So you could do things like that. You can also say thank you for certain things. Thank you for paying your invoice on time. Thank you for, getting back to me so quickly. And this isn't just like, pleasantries. There, there should be some weight behind it. Because keep in mind, these are the people that are paying for your lifestyle, paying for your business. So we should be thankful. We should show gratitude. And
You know, there's something that is crazy, and like we said before, like we tend to appear as sunshine rainbow
right,
persons, and I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't in a word like I thought that everyone is like me, always happy, not complaining about anything, just doing what I need to do, and I think, why are you acting like that? Not being grateful for what you have. But there's people that are like that, but they're not doing it in purpose. Like, do
facts,
you think that
facts.
like, yeah, there is people that do that in purpose, like they have millions and are not grateful. But there's people, they're just
They're not aware.
not happy with what they have, what they are, So this is like something different in mental thing, health, and nobody is like everybody, right? And there is people who can relate to them, but I can't, because I don't have those kinds of thoughts of problems, but it exists, and you can expect to like people to be like you know, being happy all the time and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I understood that a little bit, not late, but yeah, late because,
No, it's
like I
not
said,
late. You're only 25, bro. Not late.
26.
26. You're not
Yeah.
late, bro. No, and I think it's important for people to recognize this isn't something you put off. Well, later in life, I'll become
Mm,
more empathetic and more and show gratitude more. No, when you think about it, no one just wakes up and they're bent out of shape. They're just mad. They're envious of everything. They don't care about anybody. No, it all starts uh, since, well, it all begins earlier on in life. And it's like developing habits. You have to change. If you aren't practicing empathy now, you have to work on practicing empathy because you're not just going to wake up and be empathetic in the future. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
don't just do it for business, do it in personal life as well because it will bleed into business. Practice empathy in life. Okay. Someone cuts you off. Instead of getting all bent out of shape, practice patience and practice, you know what? Is it possible that that person maybe they have somewhere they really need to be? Something happened, they got to get there. Or maybe they didn't know that they cut me off. If either of those two, and there's probably more, are a possibility, we shouldn't get bent out of shape. Because if we were in that situation, we would expect others to understand, look, I got to get to X, Y, or Z. Or look, I'm so sorry, I didn't see you there. You know what I mean? So we need to take ourselves out of the center of the world and recognize that really we aren't. I'm, and it's trivial to say, but no, we aren't. Everyone has stuff going on. So what are those stories? And for gratitude, practice every day, writing 5 things at night that you're grateful for. And it's going to be something you're going to find more moments throughout the day of just being like saying to yourself, you know what, I'm really thankful for this conversation. At this moment, Ahmed, I'm thankful for our conversation. I'm thankful that, I have air conditioning right now. I'm thankful that we have an internet connection and we can talk despite you being in Canada and me being in Nashville. Small things, but like I genuinely am grateful for that. So I believe we have to start practicing these things. Don't let it just be I'll get to it later. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Totally agree. And yeah, that's a whole point that you made. Like, you can just expect to be empathetic and be grateful if you're not in the beginning. Like, you can blame yourself. And like, I wasn't empathetic before. Like, to be honest, not ever, because I only played video games and was all by myself, not having friends. With who do you want me to practice empathy, right? So that's the way it is. And from the moment I understand that I need to, even for self acceptance, living in society and making friends, right? So it's the way that you need to live. You don't have to put a mask, but because if you start doing that just for doing it in the sake of business, money, and it
People will
it
see
shows
right
up,
through it.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
You're not going to
you
fool
can fake
anybody.
that. I think you can fake it,
Yeah.
but not for long. Not
Yeah.
for
You can
long.
fake
That's
it,
for
but you're
sure.
not fooling anybody because everyone's going to know. No, you're totally right. And I think the whole premise of this book is not, okay, let's work on every single action item and you're going to be a new person tomorrow. No, it's life. It's messy. It's complicated. It's wonderful. It's beautiful, and it's a process. So I encourage, and I'm sure you would as well, Ahmed. Anyone that's looking to grow in their personal development, develop a different mindset, and or for their business, read the book. I mean, this book, super super small. We spent over an hour talking about it, and we didn't even really get into it.
Right. Just answering questions.
Just answering
Right.
questions and reflecting.
The book have bold promises. I'm just gonna read them for the audience, and if you can relate, but you can expect, like Matt said, you can expect to read the book and it's gonna answer all your questions here, and you're gonna become this person just because you read the book. Oh my God, that's crazy, I don't know. But the book said here, do you overthink and procrastinate? Hold into regrets about the past, see the negative side first, worry about what others think, want to be more creative and productive, want to be more patient with yourself and others, because yeah, you can be impatient with yourself, and those all those aspects, you work on them daily, and you become better daily, and you can like add 50% of amelioration from overnight. So
Right. No, I mean, to the last book we discussed, the compound effect, we need to focus on, becoming better by 0.5% or 1% each day, because it's time. Time is the greatest factor. If we are consistent with working on our personal and business development over a long period of time, we're going to get to the point that we want to be at, because it's those little steps every day that then become habits. And it just happens without us thinking about it. And I think that's really the beauty. So yes, I love those promises. And I do believe that this is a book for everyone. Even if you think you have rock star mentality, it's like, no, you're going to learn something.
And I applied directly what I learned from this book to like choose the perspective, because at the end of the day, you're not going to find this book into a business category, right?
Yeah, no.
So, but I chose to apply, like, switch it everything into the book, and you can see it into the lens of business, because at the end of the day, you can apply everything here into your business. So
yes,
if you find a book that you think that you can apply into your business, you might be wrong. So
you're
yeah,
probably
think
wrong.
twice.
Yeah.
Choose your perspective.
Choose your perspective. It's all the way in which you see it. Well, Med, this has been a great discussion. Thank you for the time. And thank you to our listeners. To follow along, you guys can head to our website. That's btbpodcast.net. And you will see the upcoming books, so that for our next episode, maybe you can join the conversation. And with that, we're out.
Ciao.
There it is.